little while now, and I thought we would get ready together. I have been having a wonderful time. I'm a little red, but honestly, I have been lathering up in sunscreen and really doing my absolute darnest to not get burned. And it's just sometimes really hard to avoid when you have my complexion. Cheers. But definitely trying my best. I've been mostly in the shade, and I'm getting ready for dinner now. We're on the first floor, so there might be people walking by. Typically, I would not wear any like complexion or skin makeup on a trip like this, where it's very much in the salt water, just, you know, being natural. I'm obviously, well, not obviously, but I'm not using any like heat on my hair. It's a very relaxed trip, but I am having, it's not new, but I'm having one of my like hormonal chin episodes. Bummer. So I just feel like I don't just want to put concealer on my skin like this, because I'm a million and one different colors. Red, freckly, extremely pale, bright red from like any acne I'm having on my face. So just using a little bit of the bare minerals, but yeah, it's pretty. I don't even know if it comes up on camera, if it comes up worse on camera. Don't tell me. I'm just putting that in all the places that make me depressed. We're having an absolutely wonderful time. We're here with my guy's family, and I have been just reading and relaxing. I brought a couple books with me. I will talk you through all of my different reading options that I brought with me for all different moods that I might encounter. My main read, at least for the past 2 days, has been Bring Up the Bodies, which is a reread for me. If you know my reading taste at all, you'll know that that is one of the formative books in my reading life. And I reread the first series in that, the first novel in that series earlier. I reread it earlier this year as a treat to myself. And then I have had a really bad reading month so far in October. 1 second. I keep getting interrupted. I had a very kind of bad start to my October reading, where I started a couple of books and just felt nothing. Was not excited about them, didn't want to pick them up, and I just felt like I was just wasting time and not accomplishing anything in terms of like moving through books, which you don't always need to, but every now and then it's nice to finish something and feel like you've made a dent in your reading goals, and also I'm just excited about what I'm reading. One of those books that I started and just put down, not forever, because I will 100% read it, but I just didn't feel excited about it, was Return of the King. Return of the King, is that what it's called? I sure hope so. The last book in the Lord of the Rings series, obviously. So I have to use my phone. I can't see a freaking thing in this. I put that one down. I read almost half of it. So I spent a lot of time trying to be excited about the book, and just, it was just not the time. It was not gripping my attention. So I put that down and returned to a book that I knew would make me excited to read. So I'm reading Bring Up the Bodies and loving it. I'm pretty close to being done with it. It's so much shorter than Wolf Hall, and I always forget that, because I was thinking, when am I going to pick this one up? Maybe we'll wait till the new year. But it's such a breeze after you read Wolf Hall. It's not as confused, but not even confused, but it's not as tricky to read. You know your players you know the pacing, you know Mantel's writing, you're more comfortable, and it's definitely a pacier read. Things are happening. What I didn't remember about these books, or maybe it just didn't stick out as one of the key pillars, but now that I'm rereading them, I definitely am like tracing it across them, is what I loved so much. I'm jumping all over the place. I've had a couple of spicy margaritas. What I loved so much about Booth by Karen Joy Fowler that I read earlier this year was the elements of the odd or the weird, mostly in the hauntings of some of the dead children in that book. Parallel to the Cromwell trilogy, where there is these elements of hauntings of the Tudor era, that Cromwell is visited by a lot of these like phantom figures in his past that were like formative people in his life. His daughters, his wife, Catherine of Aragon, and Wolsey obviously plays such a big role in like his phantom moving in and out of the shadows in these rooms where Cromwell is making these decisions, forming these plot, piecing together these different rumors and stories to create a case against Anne Boleyn. Plot twist. So that is something I am just really enjoying, like tracing those elements of hauntings and those visiting phantoms. You wouldn't think of the magic or the ghosts in the air, but the Tudor era was definitely a haunted one if you think about what happened and all the different players and all the different plots and all of the victims of these different plots. So I'm really enjoying it. And I brought a bunch of other books with me. Now, it was probably far too ambitious. I packed 4 books total. I was going to bring a really, 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 really chunky book, The Covenant of Water. I'm not remembering the author's name, but I picked that book up a couple of months ago in Cape Cod when I was there just visiting for a weekend, and there was this cute little bookstore, and I walked in and I had seen that book everywhere. It's on Oprah's list. So I picked it up, and my mom ended up reading my copy before I have had a chance to, and she said that she really, really loved it. So it's on my list to read this year. But I was going to bring it on this trip, and I just decided if I bring that book, I can only bring like one other because it's so freaking big, and it's a hardcover because it's fairly new. So I just decided it is not the time. I'll read that one in November, December. So I did bring 4 books with me. Very excited about them. I'm definitely mixing it up with a couple of weird and speculative alien books, 2 alien books, and then historical fiction with my tutors, my dose of that, and then kind of a sad and emotional tale in case I'm in the mood for that, which I doubt I will be. Oh, this is one of my new favorite makeup things, the Rare Beauty eyeshadow stick. I have different colors. This is very, very light. What is she? I don't know what she is. I don't know what the color is. Oh my goodness. Well-being. And I also have a very dark, smoky one, Adventure. But I think I'll do that tomorrow because we're going to kind of a casual place today. Yeah, you could definitely blend these out, but I kind of just chuck them on my eye because really, what's the harm? I've never been good at eyeshadow, ever, in my whole life, and I went like many, many years without wearing any or like even trying to wear any, just because I thought, if you can't do it well, just give it up. But these are perfect because you just kind of use one, you slather it on, and then you never think about it again until somebody tells you that you look insane. So that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna go pick out what I'm wearing and probably talk to you more tomorrow. And we'll have some time together because my guy is going fishing, and he will be gone for many, many hours. wanted to say about Bring Out the Bodies is now upon this reread, where I'm less awed by Mantel herself and her genius, I'm really picking up on all of those little hints and cues and intentional comments or remembered slights, and it's really kind of fun to try to parse out the moment where the decision to turn on Anne is made, because there is a moment in the book where it becomes clear that like Henry and this is about Thomas Cromwell and his efforts to dethrone Anne Boleyn after placing her or helping her to be placed on the throne in the previous book. But there is a moment in this book where Henry and Thomas have this conversation where it is more blatantly stated, and then the wheels start to turn in a real way. But the moment has been building. I came outside to continue talking to you. What I was saying is that it's really fun now to try to identify where the moment that Cromwell himself decided, once Henry so blatantly stated it, the wheels start to turn in a real way, and it's a much larger, now investigative conversation, but before it was kind of the bits and pieces of gossip and rumor and remembered slights. And I think what Mantel does is so interesting here is she doesn't specifically say that what was done to Wolsey is a specific factor in the way that now Cromwell is moving against Anne Boleyn and the different men that surround her. But it is hinted at, and we recall different moments where these men might have slayed Wolsey or played a huge or even small part in his downfall and the way that everyone turned on him. And Cromwell is a man who forgets nothing. And it is really interesting to see how these bits and pieces start to build a case against Anne. So it is like working out the pieces of a puzzle, but also acknowledging that like you'll never really know what his biggest motivating factor is. Obviously, Henry saying that he can't have a male heir with her is one of the biggest contributing factors. But Cromwell moves in a specific way to remove her and the people around her that does feel personal and separate from the conversations with Henry. So it is just like this huge web of intrigue and gossip and past injury, and it's just like so fun to read and to remember and to like pick up these little nuggets of information, know that Mantel is using them to great effect. And I'm just like, I'm absolutely loving it. It does feel like this thriller. It's like a pretty fast galloping pace to where we left off with Wolf Hall that felt more slow and methodical, and this does feel very intentional, and each plot point is very pointed, but it does feel like we are very focused on removing Anne. So it's a very differently paced book, but I do think it might be my favorite of the three. But let me finish this one, then return to The Mirror and the Light and see if that still holds true. But yeah. I'm about to head down to the beach, but I thought that I would share the other books that I brought with me on this trip, because I have a feeling I'm gonna be finishing Bring Up the Bodies this morning. I'm very near the end and it's incredible. But I brought a couple other books. I will definitely not be reading 3 more books this trip, but you never know. I didn't know what mood I would be in. So I did bring 2 speculative alien and human novels. One by China Miéville, who I am very excited to read more from. I obviously read and loved Perdita Street Station last year, and I have a couple of Miéville books on my shelves now, and this is the one that most intrigued me. So this is set in the far future, where humans have colonized a distant planet home to the enigmatic Iraqi, sentient beings famed for a language unique in the universe, one that only a few altered human ambassadors can speak. And then it goes on to say that the fragile equilibrium between humans and aliens is violently upset, and catastrophe looms, and there's some competing loyalties, and I think it will be a little bit bureaucratic. So this one sounds very, very good. And then another Tade Thompson. This is the author of the Wormwood trilogy that I just finished a couple months ago, which is another alien invasion, sentient being series. So this is a standalone book about, I will just read the blurb. Also a very nice cover. You can't really see it, but it is like speckled. Kind of cool. So this is about the colony ship Ragtime docks in the Lagos system, having traveled light years to bring 1,000 sleeping souls to a new home among the stars. But when first meet Michelle rouses, she discovers some of the sleepers will never wake. Answering the distress call, investigator Rashid is tasked with finding out who's responsible for these deaths. Soon a sinister mystery unfolds aboard the gigantic vessel, one that will have repercussions for the entire system. So this sounds, actually the font is pretty big, so this might be a nice beach read. The blurb reminds me a little bit of a book that I read by River Solomon a couple of years ago. I actually listened to it, The Unkindness of Ghosts, and I actually really did not like that book. It might have been because I was listening to it, but I just felt like the ideas were so wonderful, but the plot just went awry. But this sounds very good, so this might be my next read. And then one that is a very different vibe, but this is John Banville's The Sea, and I think this is a gorgeous cover. This is giving me Claire Keegan Foster energy. I don't know if I am totally mistaken about that, but this is a novel about love, loss, and the unpredictable power of memory. We are introduced to Max Morden, a middle-aged Irish man who has gone back to the seaside town where he spent his summer holidays as a child to cope with the recent loss of his wife. It is also a return to the place where he met the Graces, a well-heeled family with whom he experienced the strange suddenness of both love and death for the first time. So this one sounds very beautiful as well. So those are my options. That's what we're working with. I think I'm going to bring this one with me. Hi friends. I have not chatted to you all in ages. I have just been like a busy little bee, really doing a whole lot of nothing, but definitely getting out and about. Yesterday I had a very wonderful deep tissue massage, which is like the second or third massage I've had in my life. I'm like very ticklish, and I don't love the whole like touching thing. It's very outside of my comfort zone, but it was incredible. But I am in pain today, and I know it's because she like really got in there. Really, it's like my shoulders and my lower back, and like my shoulders are always a problem area for me. They're always like, I literally sit and type and work like this, and they're always incredibly tense. So she really got in there. And I'm sure it will help me long term, but it's like I literally am sore to the touch. But it was wonderful. And today, we have just been by the beach, by the pool. I wanted to give a reading update because I did finish Bring Up the Bodies yesterday morning. That book is just a masterpiece. I really think it is. I can't find flaw in it. It is very different from Wolf Hall, and that's what I'm now remembering is how the 3 books differ. Like, this one is very focused, and not only is it like a lot shorter, but it's very focused, and I like kind of forgot how quickly things start to happen and things start to move. But I was able to like pick up on different hints and bits and turn of phrases and the way Cromwell is tracking people with his eyes and the way his mind is always working, and that's just like, it was a joy to read. It is really like this character study of Thomas Cromwell himself, and that's the point of these books. Obviously, we are studying Anne and Henry and Catherine and the Duke and Brandon and everyone through his perspective, but it's really about like what they're doing for him or against him, and they're really all like pieces on his chessboard. Loved it. And I started Far From the Light of Heaven, which is reminding me of the Wormwood trilogy because it's looking at something in like the far future, alien and humans, and I'm only like 60 pages in, and it is clear that humans have been living in deep space for a while, I think across a couple of different planets. Humans are still on Earth, and there seems to still be war, and things happening on Earth. They call them like Earth dwellers, but it's clear that humans have been living on multiple planets for some time, and there are like political systems set up there and community. And where we start out on this book is a woman who is going to captain, really, she's just there as like a figurehead, but she's going on an AI commandeered ship to bring 1,000 people to a new colony. And she's put under into the dream state with everyone else. And when she wakes, she realizes that like 40 or so people have been taken from their sleeping pod and brutally murdered. And she sends a signal, and they send out an investigator to help uncover what might have happened on her ship. But there's a lot of politics and scheming happening in the background, so they have to be very like sensitive who hears the distress call. And I'm not really sure like the politics and the climate just yet, but it is reminding me of the Wormwood trilogy because it does seem very bureaucratic. We just got introduced to one of the, I don't know if he's the secretary of the colony Lagos, which is named after Earth Lagos, but this is like the deep space version, and it does seem to be very political, which really is like how the Wormwood trilogy ended up playing out, that yes, it's about aliens and colonization and the infestation and the way we're interacting with other sentient beings, but it was deeply political and bureaucratic. And I think it's interesting that that's what Tade Thompson focuses on, because he's trying to show like logistically how might these things play out, regardless of like the weirdness, how these things might work, and different players that might arise, and how like jealousy and greed and wealth and all of these things would play a role. So it's interesting. I'm not like obsessed with the writing style so far, but it has captured my attention, and I think it is a nice book to read by the beach. It's not too high stakes. Well, it might be. I mean, it's a pretty intense plot, so maybe I shouldn't say that just yet. And I am realizing that I look so red in this light, but I swear to God, it is the lighting. I am only a small percentage of the redness that you are seeing. It's actually alarming. This is a misrepresentation of the amount of sun I got.